I just can't believe that the main reason why we still don't have an end to the Korean War is because a lot of the U.S. allied countries are really trying to force North Korea to give up its nuclear program. But, it's a really interesting time to talk about denuclearizing as Oppenheimer is being released in America and doing blockbuster numbers. I'm like, the hypocrisy right now. I'm like, okay. We have Oppenheimer, Korea, Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I guess it's specifically communist nukes that America has trouble with.
Our nukes. Welcome to the Politically Asian podcast. We're two Asian American comedians talking about politics and the Asian American community in hopes of getting more Asians to talk about politics. We're coming at you live from Brooklyn, New York. My name is Aaron Yin. My pronouns are he, him, and you can find me on social media at Aaron Flarin. That's AARONFLARIN. And my co-host...
Hey, my name is Jerry Lim. My pronouns are they, them, and you can find me across the internet at Jerryaki. That's GERRIEYAKI. And today we're doing fortune cookie fortune shoutouts. Yay! So if you don't know what those are, every week we read fortunes for our supporters who donate to support us at buymeacoffee.com/politicalasian. And then we make ChatGPT spit out a couple of fortunes. And then we interpret it with a politically Asian twist for our donors. This week, our donor is Jaya. Yay!
Thank you, Jaya.
Okay, yeah, that was pretty good.
Pretty good timing, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that was pretty good. All right, Jaya, here is your fortune. Adopt a positive mindset and watch the world transform. Optimism attracts luck and opens new doors for you to explore. Aaron, what are your thoughts on this fortune?
I'm reading this after trying to feel more optimistic about my own organizing, so I think it's an okay fortune. I would say I'm never a fan of adopting a positive mindset for the sake of a positive mindset, but I think one thing for me that I tell myself is that there are always ups and downs when it comes to whatever you're doing. But at least for me, when I zoom out and look at the larger picture, there is an overall upwards trend. So I think that's my version of a positive mindset, is that things will go up over time and progress over time. And yeah, that that to me is motivating and keeps me going. Jaya, hopefully you have some version of that keeps you going. But that's my first thought, is that I don't believe in positivity for the sake of positivity, but I do believe in zooming out, and that generally helps you see how far you've come.
Interesting. Okay. Would you say you're an optimist?
Honestly, no.
Great. Awesome.
I think more realist. Like, I see the trend going up. I'm like, okay, I feel motivated. But if the trend goes down, I'm not going to be like, it's okay, it's going to go back up. I'm like, well, we'll see how it goes.
I feel like that's still a certain degree of optimism.
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe like cautious optimism.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. What do you think?
So I've been trying to be more of an optimist in general, and I feel like one thing that I've been thinking about is like pessimism and awareness that things are bad are two different things. Like, I think you can still be aware that, oh my God, the earth's on fire, like what's happening with the economy, inflation, all that stuff. And still, I mean, it almost sounds naive to say optimist, but like still I think it's like this belief that we have to believe that a better world is possible, because like if we just keep thinking like, oh my gosh, everything's on fire, and we don't think about like what we're trying to achieve, I think that like shoots ourselves in the foot, you know?
Yeah, like you were saying, pessimism I think is very future facing, right? Pessimism is like, I think the future is going to be shit. Versus awareness of things are bad right now is just what's happening right now, but it's still
the present is shit.
Yeah, the present is shit, but the future can still, be better.
Good. Yeah.
So you were saying that you, generally speaking, just tell yourself that a better world is possible?
I am trying to get into the practice of that. I am generally like you. I am not really an optimist. I am a recovering pessimist, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Trying to get better at being an optimist, because like I was reading this book which is new reading, and they were talking about like how your reality is. This sounds so crunchy.
This is going to be good.
Your reality is essentially your perception of it, right? So if I guess like what I'm trying to say is maybe I do agree with or disagree with this idea of not being an optimist for the sake of being an optimist, like what you were saying. I think like if you are an optimist for the sake of being an optimist, I think there's a possibility that just things will inherently feel better because you believe it's better. I don't know.
Okay.
I will try being an optimist first and report back.
Yeah. Jay, we're giving you a little bit of conflicting viewpoints on this fortune. Take what you can from this. It is a tough world out there. Hope one of us at least gives you more perspective on whatever you're going through. And most importantly, thank you so much for supporting the pod. If you want your own fortune, please donate at buymeacoffee.com/politicalasian. All right, and let's move on to our next segment, the Practice What You Preach segment. So on this podcast, Jerry and I, we, talk a lot about politics, but it's also important to do things in real life. So each week, Jerry and I share one thing we did related to politics and organizing. This week, I will go first. So what I want to dedicate this segment to is some really good news that's happened as a result of like the picket line over time. So recently, the group that manages the 88 East Broadway Mall, it's like a really important mall in Chinatown, they came to this agreement with a lot of the Jingfang workers and union members on our picket line to open a large dim sum hall in the mall and rehire a lot of the workers that got displaced during the pandemic by, landlord Jonathan Chu. So the TLDR, big new gathering place opens in Chinatown. Lot of fired workers get job back. Community happy because new place reopened in Chinatown. Since the trend is normally places closing down in Chinatown, whether due to the mega jail or due to landlords increasing rent or due to random shit like the fires, right? There's always something pushing people out of Chinatown for some reason here or there. So I think this is a huge win against displacement. And the only reason I'm talking about it is because there hasn't been that much press about it. We're still trying to figure out how to pitch it ourselves to more food magazines and more places, because it really is a big deal for new places to open that are gathering centers when everyone's like worried about the health and longevity of Chinatown, for example.
Yeah, when's it gonna open so we can go?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. A lot of the Jingfang works I talked to are too, because they're hiring like a lot of people. I think like 50-ish, which is still smaller than 100, which is what Jingfang had. But to answer your question, they estimate it for 2025. So it is going to be a while. It's like 2 years, but
well, they have to renovate a whole like the mall, right?
Yeah,
it's going to take a while because that place is grungy.
Yeah, right now the exterior of the mall does not look good. There's a lot of graffiti. There are still some stores open in the mall, but it's really it's not the best right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
I was like, whoa, this is like in The Last of Us when you see the mall's kind of broken down, like the interiors. It's still there, but it's not that great.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We'll eat there in 2025 then.
Yeah. But I think about that a lot because everyone's always like, you've been on the picket line for so long. Like, what's happening? And I think this is one really big piece of concrete news that has happened as a result of like consistent community pressure. Like the people at the Broadway Mall know that this is really important. If they want to open a new place, they can't do it without, also addressing the union members, right? And so...
Right.
But it's also been like 2 years, right? It's like 2 years. We have this first big win. The picket might be going on for a long time later before there are more wins. But I'm happy because it did happen. But also like, wow, it really is a marathon and not a sprint. I don't think a sprint could have done anything. Like one big march would not have done anything. It's truly like a consistent picket line over time that actually works.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense, right? Like, with a one-day march, you can just kind of like close your eyes for a day.
Yeah, I like that story.
But
yeah.
if it's consistent pressure, it's like, oh man, those fuckers are back.
Yeah, literally, yeah. But yeah, that was my week. How are you doing?
Yeah, I feel like I'm also on the upswing, so maybe we should look into being optimists because we started negotiations at work. Now I should, be clear that we are not unionized in any way, but we're close. I feel like we've got the skeleton of one. And this has started because one of our teammates is officially leaving as of next week, and we still have like so much work on all of our plates. So the most senior team member is going to the VP, who is like our boss essentially, and basically has demands like that we'll get to keep, like, for the most part, being remote, compensation, and essentially that other coworkers need to get their shit together because this sounds like I'm an awful person to work with, but it's honestly other people that are like making our lives miserable because they are awful at like writing our assignments, like our Jira tickets and stuff like that, and making work really hard for us by being very disorganized. So I sat down and helped that coworker basically write out what to say, how to say it, our demands, and that essentially at the end, if the answer is no to like raises and like all that stuff, then, we're going to have to slow down or even stop work until something gets fixed. Or if conditions don't improve, they decide just to like ghost us and not answer, we're going to start leaving altogether because it's obvious that this is not going to get any better. And yeah, just look for a different workplace.
Wait, that sounds really cool. So essentially, you got your worker on board, you listed some demands.
Yeah, everyone's on board.
Yeah. I guess the most important thing is, what's the timeline? Are you giving them 1 week to reply, 1 month to fix this?
So they had the senior teammate already talked with the VP, and he said he's going to talk with like the people team and HR and all that stuff next week, this upcoming week. And then the week after that, we should get an answer. So we will see. To be continued, but that is the timeline, supposedly.
Gotcha. The reason I was asking is because it feels like a management strategy to delay as long as possible. And so just now when you were saying the word next week he's doing this, and then the following is this, and then the next week after that, I'm like, oh boy, this sounds like bureaucratic, layering, right? It's like classic management or HR is to delay until they whittle you down or replace you somehow.
For sure. I mean, I'd love to see them try to replace us right now, because even if they did, first off, there's so much, those memes or TikToks of you see of people who like are talking about like the tech layoffs, so they'll delete all like the documentation, like all the notes they've taken, so that everything's in the head, and that the company kind of has retained that worker.
Yeah.
We're kind of doing that essentially. And then second, we've already done the whole waiting thing. So it's been like this for the past 4 months, and my senior coworker is very impatient. So she actually brought this up 4 months ago, and then that's when they played the whole like, oh, we'll see, give it some time. And then now it's truly do or die, I think, right now. So
okay, cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, keep us updated. It sounds like there have been big updates since 2 weeks, but yeah, I've kind of seen the delay tactic happen a lot before.
Yeah,
involved with picket line and mocha situations. So I'm like, it's very, very classic strategy to give the illusion of progress while really doing nothing.
Yeah. Cool. Let's get into the meat of the episode. This week in Asian American politics, we're starting off with covering the Korean War, which 70 years later, Koreans are still working to formally end. If you didn't know, the Korean War was fought between North and South Korea from 1950 to 1953. The South was supported by the U.S., while the North was supported by China and the Soviet Union. Now, a lot of Americans think the war is over, but no peace treaty was ever officially signed. I think it was just like an armistice or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, meaning that the Koreas are still technically at war. Now that the war is in its 70th anniversary, advocates are calling to formally end the conflict. This is a problem because in like 2017, I think, Trump instated a travel ban to North Korea. And while this made international relations even worse, it also prevented families from reuniting. And then Biden was supposed to undo the travel ban because he promised it on the campaign, and yet in office he has done nothing but upheld it. Obviously, lots of history. Aaron, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, like if you look this up on Wikipedia, there's a long ass list of sanctions against North Korea, which is other things in addition to the travel ban that the US and other countries are doing to North Korea. But yeah, this war is anything but over. Like the list is just getting updated year by year. Like it's sometimes multiple times a year. Like, like you're just looking at this list get updated in real time. Yeah, I didn't know that much about the Korean War before reading these articles. Like it was a very short part of the US history textbook, and there have been a few attempts to end the war, like you mentioned, the armistice in 1991. North Korea and South Korea, they signed on to this thing called the North-South Basic Agreement, which said that reunification was the goal of both countries. But then, because the North Korea was, building a nuclear weapons program, that deal fell apart. Like America and other people didn't want to sign on to this. In addition to North Korea and South Korea, so it seems like nuclear missiles are the main thing that's keeping this from happening right now. But I do think it's ironic. Like I think about the Spider-Man meme right now. Like the U.S. is pointing at North Korea, being like, stop making your nukes. But likewise, I feel like North Korea is pointing at America and being like, you have the most nukes right now.
So, yeah. I guess it's specifically communist nukes that America has trouble with.
Yeah, our nukes. Bugs Bunny meme.
While reading this article, I realized that I knew nothing about the Korean War because, kind of like what you said, we just never got to that chapter in APUS history. There's a story at the beginning of the article where the student activist who's mentioned, Hannah Lee, was heard from their 6th grade teacher that the Korean War was over, but she knew from her parents that it wasn't. And I was just like, man, I don't think my teacher would have even gotten to say that, we just weren't that deep in the textbook.
Yeah, we would also not know. Yeah. Hannah also talks about, I guess, the modern day impacts of travel bans. So a lot of family members still have relatives in North Korea. Maybe it's like a grandfather or a great grandfather or a great great grandfather, like their grave sites are there.
Yeah.
And so while this travel ban and general barrier is there between the two Koreas, it's hard for families to reconcile and meet and have closure and all this. It's like I can't even imagine what that's like, because I could, if I went to China, I could still see my relatives. It's not like there's a literal physical barrier preventing me from going to one part of the country.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know you could go into North Korea. I kind of just always assumed you couldn't go. I feel like there's a lot of, I don't want to say propaganda. I feel like there's a lot of media that says 20 pictures from inside North Korea that you've never seen before. Or, a lot of stuff like that.
And it's all the most horrific shit you've ever seen.
Right. I'm like, are you sure this is from North Korea?
Yeah. These are those Ohio memes from a long time ago. Showing Ohio as this desolate and destroyed place. Yeah. No, the propaganda is strong. I just can't believe that the main reason why we still don't have an end to the Korean War is because a lot of the U.S. allied countries are really trying to force North Korea to give up its nuclear program. But, it's a really interesting time to talk about denuclearizing as Oppenheimer is being released in America and doing blockbuster numbers. I'm like, the hypocrisy right now. I'm like, okay. We have Oppenheimer, Korea. Oppenheimer, that's I'm like, you're just mad that you don't want them to do what we already do. That was my main thing. And a lot of people, I guess, being interviewed about the situation were saying how Kim Jong-un has seen other governments be overthrown after giving up their nuclear programs, and so he's not very likely to do it. And also, we've been slapping North Korea with sanctions left and right since 2006. I don't think they're working. They're not any closer to denuclearizing, but for some reason, America just keeps trying to do the same thing over and over again.
it does remind me of that like a shootout scene or like a what's it called? A standoff where it's just like you get rid of your gun first. No, you get rid of your gun first.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
get rid of my gun when yeah.
Drop our
I
guns at the count of 3. Yeah.
it's just so stupid because I can't imagine even if all the countries cooperated and got rid of their nukes and America was the last one, you know that they would keep the nukes.
Oh yeah. It's all a game of chicken. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Reading about the sanctions though, that was really heartbreaking. There's a piece in the article talking about this Korean neurosurgeon who went to North Korea like 18 times and was talking about how hospitals couldn't repair slash maintain equipment. And I guess like I've never really thought about sanctions in that sense. I feel like for me, it's always been like food. Okay, we can always produce more food, I guess. But it's just wild to think about people suffering medically like that because of the few in government and who's making decisions. And Western capitalists are always like, communism doesn't work. Yeah, maybe because you're like starving the people.
Yeah. Yeah. Communism doesn't work, but then you zoom out and there's like a ton of blockade ships and
Right. Right.
like people's like blocking supplies left and right. Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if it's like on principle that they don't give up the nukes. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it wasn't a problem until you told me that I had to do it. Like I was probably going to give up the nukes anyway. They're kind of a hassle, but because you're bullying me into this, I'm keeping the nukes.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
I wonder if it's anything like that.
Reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Or it's sort of like parenting, right? Like when you tell a kid to not do something, they do it even more.
Yeah.
Like,
now I'm going to double down on the nukes.
Like that's what I think. Like, dude, like I was counting the Wikipedia sanctions, but they've had I think like 9 or 10 sanctions since 2006. So almost one per year, and it's like, dude, like like nothing's happening. Like you're just making
what are you
them
even
double
sanctioning
down.
at that point?
Yeah, like you've sanctioned everything, like metals, rare earth materials, luxury good. Oh, like whoa, yeah, we're banning the export of like Gucci and like all rocket. There's all sorts of mainly fuel. Like I feel like this is all Settlers of Catan material, like lumber, fuel, oil, ore, yeah, that type of thing.
Do you think we'll ever see a peace agreement signed in our lifetime? Remember, we're trying to be optimists.
Optimist. Well, it kind of depends on if America keeps harping on this nuclear thing.
Yeah.
Because I sent you this image that, there are current only estimates for how many nuclear warheads each country has. As if one will not decimate us all, but America has an estimated 5,244 nuclear warheads. North Korea estimated only has 30, but we're dead set on trying to get that number 30 to 0. And so unless America abandons that requirement, I don't think we're going to see a reunification. I'm just trying to be real about this. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I was gonna say no because the U.S. can't stand to lose 2 wars in Asia.
That too.
Like they're not. They've already lost to Asians once.
Yeah, Vietnam, now Korea.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I hope something. I don't know. I want to believe. I don't think so, but I want to believe that things will turn out united.
Yeah, it's ironic. I guess this is also on the topic of nukes, sort of. But Einstein had that famous quote that insanity was doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I'm like, dude, you've slapped North Korea with sanctions like 10 plus times. Nothing's changed. Do we really think the 11th one is gonna make or break something? I'm like, please, we do something different.
Also, what's left? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like at this point they've probably gotten used to living on nothing.
Yeah, I mean, some of the most recent ones. Well, now they say in December of 2022, a new round of sanctions was being prepared that have not been released yet. Jesus, new sanctions just dropped, type of thing.
Oh my God!
It just seems like they're restricting the access to basic materials more and more. There's huge emphasis on coal, petroleum, textiles, some bank accounts being held out, but it
What
seems
the
all
fuck?
like literally raw ingredients. Like I guess because if you don't have that, then you don't have heat, gas, fire, things to keep you warm and feel everything else. But it's not like they're taking away like laptops or like mirrors. I don't. I'm just looking at my household supplies.
This man
like
said mirrors.
mirrors, yeah, tables. I mean, it's yeah, it's all the basic fuels.
I would love to see you make a list of things to sanction, dude. Like tables, come on.
Pencils, yeah. I'm like, how?
Like they have trees and
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah, maybe crops, but cool. Well, let's move on to the next topic, also involving taking something away. We are talking about challenges to legacy admissions at Ivy League universities. Now, we covered this briefly in our last episode, but the Department of Education, the federal one, has opened a civil rights inquiry into Harvard's legacy admissions. This is because many civil rights groups were talking about how legacy admissions give an unfair advantage to wealthy, primarily white applicants who make up most of legacy admissions while disadvantaging Black, Latine, let's say even Asian people. That's a summary of what's happening right now. Jerry, what are your thoughts on this situation?
so there's like this senator who's running for president, and he also called for Harvard to eliminate, quote, preferential treatment for legacy kids. I'm like, whoa, go this senator. He's a Republican. Why am I supporting a Republican?
Yeah. Oh, okay,
it's like that article, worst person you know makes a great point.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I was like, is this senator bad? But then he said Republican. I'm like, okay. Yeah. It's wild how much of an advantage legacy students have. So this article essentially talks about how legacy students make up less than 5% of applicants, but they are around 30% of the admitted population at Harvard every year. And then to top that off, 70% of that group is white as well. So it's overwhelmingly white. And legacies also just make up about a third of the people admitted at Harvard.
Yeah, that was really wild to think about. I Googled the class of 2027 just to, because percentages are like just percentages, like they're vague, abstract numbers until you apply them. That's how I've always felt.
Mm-hmm.
So I did some SAT math for the first time in like what feels like forever. And so the class of 2027 had 56,000, roughly 56,000 applicants. So if we apply that, right, 5%, so roughly 3,000 of them are legacies, which objectively is kind of a lot to think about. I don't know why, but it's just really wild to think about 3,000 people being legacy. Anyway, and of the freshman class, that's like 1,900 people, 583 are legacy students, which is kind of a lot. Like that's
Yeah,
it's just a lot to think. Like 1 in 3 people that you talk to had a
literally,
parent that went to Harvard.
Yeah, the fractions make it easier. 1 out of every 3 people in the new freshman class are legacy.
Yeah,
That's kind of that's not good. That's not good.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, because most likely they will also be a white legacy, since
Right.
white people make up 70% of legacy. So it's such a huge impact on admissions. And it's legacies, and then also in that group, it's also whether you're a recruited athlete, which is why so many people play like those like very waspy sports, like lacrosse, right? It's specifically very like waspy, like
It's the first one we thought of.
yeah, it's like there might be some football and some swimming
Aaron,
involved.
come on, man. It's lacrosse, polo,
yeah.
rowing.
Yeah,
like,
rowing. Rowing is another big one.
Yeah,
I was
you don't
like,
watch The Social Network?
No. Them legacies, and also I guess sort of legacies are children of faculty and staff, so it's not like the staff members went to that college but now they work there. Similar effect.
Yeah. I almost want to give faculty children like a pass, but I guess like you could argue, oh, well, the faculty people probably have some degree of privilege because they had to be whatever. Anyways, I guess like I just don't understand how we're just now getting here. Like, we didn't all watch the college scandal documentary from 2021. You remember that? The Operation Varsity Blues or whatever?
I actually did not watch that.
Oh my God, it was so good. Highly recommend. It'll feel like a different time for sure, but it was essentially just like, you know, you're talking about athletics, right? So people were essentially paying off coaches of these Ivy League teams to like
yeah.
place high school seniors on like, oh, like we'd love to have you on like the Harvard swim team or whatever. And that's how they would get in.
Yeah.
Things like that. There were many ways people were getting in, but that is essentially one main way was through athletes and like just fucking buying buildings, I guess.
Yeah. Which is also ridiculous because by the time they finish college, most of those athletes are not going to be athletes anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like we're bringing them in for something like totally irrelevant as well. It's yeah. One of the main reasons why Harvard focuses on legacies is because they believe it builds a valuable sense of loyalty and belonging. And when I read that, I just meant like it brings a very valuable sense of nepotism. We are all in the family of former alumni club.
I mean, yeah, I feel like the thinking there is this idea of like, oh, like these are all elite people and you're just like them. And now it's a community of elite people, right? So just keeping that line of thinking going is what they're really trying to keep in perpetuity.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a very white people thing. Like to make like there's not like a real sense of community there. Like I feel like that's what I've observed about a lot of white folks is just that there's no real community the same way that there is with like a lot of communities of color. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is the closest thing they have to the cookout.
Right.
The potluck, the
eating club. What do they call it?
Club. Yeah, the eating club. Yeah. Hey everyone, if you're still listening to the podcast right now, thank you so much for making it this far. Here to just say, if you like us, please consider pausing the episode right now and give us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Those reviews really, really help us out with the algorithm that, does not really like us overall. If you want to support us financially, you can also do so by going to buymeacoffee.com/politicalasian. If you donate, we'll also give you a shout out as well. It's just a one-time payment of whatever you want. But we would really appreciate the review or the donation, either one. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening, and back to the episode. I think something that's happening that's interesting is that there are some colleges that are getting rid of legacy now. Like apparently Wesleyan got rid of legacy after this whole affirmative action rejection. And Colorado's public colleges got rid of legacy a long time ago. What do you think about that kind of situation? It's like schools responding by ending legacy. Like they're not Ivy Leagues, but they are still colleges.
Yeah, I think that's cool and all, and I appreciate that. Period. I feel like legacy admissions really only matter in regards to prestigious universities, though, right? Like it's I don't know. Like I feel like
not
that's
just Ivy Leagues though. Like it doesn't have to be like
for sure, but
10
like
colleges. Yeah, but like Wesleyan, I feel like a lot of people still apply there.
That's true. That's true. I it's more about the brand name, I think, and I feel like yeah, Wesleyan is a great school, and I mean, I think Johns Hopkins did the same thing. Hopkins is a great school, but at the end of the day, no, let's be real. No one has as much flex as the Ivy Leagues, except for maybe like Stanford and MIT, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. But I do think it's a better strategy to try to get everyone else to do it. And so then the Ivy Leagues are the only ones left. And that makes it easier to bully them to
because they definitely look bad.
Yeah, then they would look even worse. I like if I had to organize a strategy around this, it would actually be to try to get everyone else to get rid of it first and then come back around.
My do you want to place I want to place bets on like who's gonna end it first. My money's on Columbia.
Oh, on the Ivy Leagues?
Yeah, my money's on either Columbia in terms of like the fancier, more prestigious ones, or it'll start at like, no offense to whoever went to these schools, but Cornell, Brown, Dartmouth, like one of those schools, or Penn. I completely freaking forgot about Penn. one of those schools will get rid of it first, but it's definitely not going to be Harvard or Yale.
Oh yeah, I agree. I was gonna be like, I don't know enough about the Ivy Leagues overall to differentiate, but I just think these movements never start at the top. Like
Yeah.
I do not expect I do not expect Harvard to start it. I think it really has to come the other way around. Maybe like whoever the most progressive Ivy League is, they're going to have to be the first ones to do it.
That's why I said Columbia.
Oh, is it Columbia? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, I feel that's coming from my own experience as like someone who went to Columbia grad school.
Yeah.
But I do feel like Columbia was known as like the woke school or whatever.
Dude, yeah. So I'll agree. I'll just go with the most whoever makes wokeness their brand, you know, like whoever
exactly,
makes
exactly.
Progressiveness their brand
The liberal white, you know.
Yeah, liberal white. Yeah. On that topic though, there was that article in the Atlantic that you shared with me that made a larger point about how people
no one gets to go to the Ivies or Harvard
no one
or
gets to go to
whatever.
the Ivies, and their larger point was also that legacy admissions do not reflect on white people the same way that affirmative action does on black people. And I was just thinking, that is true. We gotta start bullying white people if their legacy admissions to be like hardcore, like, oh, you got in just because of your legacy. Just like straight up make that like a standard thing.
You couldn't get in unless you had a 300-year shortcut.
Yeah, literally.
300-year leg up.
Yeah, like who's your dude? If I were a college student right now, this would be so fun. Just pick white students. I have to go just interview them. Like, are you a legacy student? No. And just go down, just go yes, no for people you're interviewing. Because it should be about 1 in every 3.
Yeah, that's
why I think it's kind of funny. Or it's like just go around asking, it's like, did your parents go to this college? Yes or no?
Oh, people are. I think people would hide that though. Like I think
really?
now people are gonna hide that, and it's just gonna be similar to like what happens in like say like Bushwick, right? Like people cosplay being poor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna make up fake, not fake passports, fake family heritages,
right,
new lineages.
No. My parents were teachers.
Yeah.
but not prestigious ones.
Yeah.
They were middle school teachers or something.
Yeah. My last name is Rockefeller, not to be confused with Rockefeller. Yeah, but I do agree that part of what is needed to make this larger shift is also to just call out white students or any legacy beneficiaries at these colleges. Like you straight up gotta like go hard at it.
All right, you heard it here first. Bully legacy students.
Yeah,
bully
literally.
Them. Bullying works. I will say bullying
yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Do you remember what we did to Instagram? Do you remember what the internet collectively did to Instagram when like the CEO or whatever posted those videos, like just like bring back, make Instagram again. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, dude. Oh, wow. It was a wild. Yeah, I mean, it was truly just like a wild day to be on the internet because they had to put out another video where the CEO said they were going to roll back a lot of the features they were going to put out because there was just so much backlash. Bullying works.
Bullying works, yeah. Also very helpful though. I guess a small thing just for the Asian listeners, one juicy bit of application data was that they're saying being a legacy student, aka a child of an alumni, you have 4 times the chance to get admitted as an applicant who's not a legacy if you have the same test scores. I know Asian people are always fucking caring about the test scores all the fucking time, and I'm like, even if you 2 people have 1600s on the SAT, the child of a legacy has a 4 times advantage on you as a regular Asian person. I'm like, that was astounding to read.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's almost like merit doesn't matter.
Yeah. Like, I was just like, please, yeah, these numbers are so interesting.
You know, if legacies get overturned, it's going to be really wild because like all the Asians who went to Harvard or recently got in are going to be mad. You know, like they're no longer going to have.
Well, do you think they're going to be mad or relaxed about this? Because I feel like some Asian people are like, yo, I'm smart, I'm talented, I can get in, with or without my dad going there.
I don't think so.
Oh, really? You think
that's my hot take?
Oh, yeah.
No, I feel like it's easy to say, and it's easy to say, oh, boo, nepotism, boo. But like, I mean, just imagine if the nepotism benefits you.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a lot harder to be like, boo.
Yeah, I'm just mad at it until it benefits me.
Exactly. So I don't know. I think it'll be rough for them.
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, moving on to our next topic of the episode, another rough thing to talk about in education is how Florida has new standards for how they teach Black history, but there's been a lot of backlash around it. There's been interrogations on who wrote them, and apparently, there's this volunteer task force comprised of like Black educators, politicians, and community leaders appointed by a government official. That volunteer task force was ignored, and the new history standards do not involve them at all. Cool. Aaron, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah. Well, first, this happened in Florida, and the main reason why all these standards are drawing backlash is because of one specific portion. Everyone keeps mentioning this. There is one section that says that slaves develop skills which, in some instances, could be applied for their personal benefit. Essentially, sort of doing a both sides to slavery. It's like, oh yes, many people died. They were exploited and torn from their families, and so on. But a few of them learned skills, and I'm like, that is just terrible. Like, that's one main reason why they're drawing backlash. Another one, there were a lot of race massacres in the 1900s, primarily white people killing many towns and cities full of Black people. And for some reason, this group appointed by DeSantis, unsurprisingly, also wants to talk about violence committed by African Americans during that time, which is, again, totally different in scale, right? It's I mean, to some degree, I feel like it's parallel to what we're seeing right now, where you can have white people be mass murderers, shooting up churches, malls, movie theaters, wherever, and then every Republican just points out how, Black Lives Matters destroyed the window of this Target, right? It's like just totally
exactly.
like the comparisons are just not valid. That I feel like this is just an extension of that. Actually, that's my first thought, is that they are just projecting the both sidesism that they normally do in modern history. Now they're trying to retroactively do that for slavery and other things.
Yeah, I mean, if it had the right context, like it almost feels like it could be so right it's left, you know what I mean? Like, pointing out the hypocrisy, like, it parallels today, things like that. But alas, they hired the like two Black academics who are known to be conservatives.
Yeah.
to write these standards. That's the spoiler alert. That's who
Yeah.
they hired to write these standards. Two Black academics that are conservative. And yeah, I mean, it's I was gonna say, not to quote Hamilton, but who lives, who dies, and who tells your story is very, very real.
Yeah, literally. It is about who is chosen. So specifically, the two people are William Allen and Francis Presley Rice. So they are both Black. They are both very conservative as well. William Allen, he's a professor. He served under Ronald Reagan. I'm like,
Yeah.
Reagan, the one who infamously loves minorities, that who has so much love for everyone.
Right.
Like,
It's
yeah,
like
that
saying
Reagan.
it's like saying you had an internship in hell,
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I had an internship on the Amazon floors or something like that. Something like that. Yeah, it's bad. And what's worse is that apparently this professor, Professor Allen, his great grandfather was a slave. And
Yeah.
and he's still trying to say, oh, slaves were resourceful and resilient, and so we gained these skills, and so slavery was not, all bad. There were some benefits. I mean, it's just a terrible, terrible uphill battle. And why?
Yeah. He said that the standards don't mean that slavery was beneficial, but meant to portray enslaved people in like a certain way. And it kind of reminds me of just like in general racial stereotypes, right? Like, oh, like how can Asians being good at math be a bad thing? Just like something similar, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, well, because they went through this bad thing, like this is a good quality about a massive generalization about these people.
Yeah, it has a lot of pull yourself up by the bootstraps energy.
Exactly.
Or
Yeah.
rags to riches energy, or the immigrant dream. That's what this has, the immigrant dream story.
That feels really fucked up given that they are not immigrants.
Yeah, exactly. But it's that type of narrative, right? They're trying to say like,
Yeah.
oh, this was so bad, but they were so innovative and
Yeah.
they managed to overcome all their circumstances and gain these skills. That's why all this pushback is happening. But it's so kind of fucked up that, you know,
It's very like be grateful for the hardships, I feel like.
Yeah. But I'm like, dude, I know your great grandfather would like beat the shit out of you. Like he would just straight up beat your ass if you were still alive. Like you're literally just trying to both sides slavery. Terrible.
I just feel like it's a lot of stuff you don't say on Maine. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like maybe if you wanted to say that stuff, you could definitely talk to like your community or like, you know, like maybe make that kind of comment amongst other black folks. But like, don't say it on Maine to like when you're a federal or state employee that's going to go out to, I don't know. Just,
Yeah.
Keep that on your private.
All over Florida now, people are going to try to both sides slavery. It's like, great. Yeah, another reason to not go to Florida, in my own opinion. That's I've added that as a list item. I guess I was thinking about parallels, and I was like, one thing I think about for Asian people is like I could just hear this argument, being like for Japanese internment camps, right?
Oh yeah.
People being like, oh hey, Japanese internment was not that bad. George Takei, he was in one of these camps, but later on he became a famous actor and played Sulu on Star Trek. Like it's like they gained some valuable skills in there that later on helped, like that kind of like stretch. I can see that happening, whether for something modern like Japanese internment or historically for Chinese gold miners. It's like, yeah, a lot of them were like beat up and killed and like segregated from the white miners, but hey, some of them might have gotten some gold too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I was thinking about that too. It's very concerning given the context that like DeSantis passed like this whole thing about mandating Asian American history.
Yeah.
But I kind of saw it from like a different point of view in the sense of like who is he going to hire to like write Asian American standards? You know what I mean? Like who I'm trying to think of like
thing, right?
Bobby Jindal, like is that who you're gonna hire to write the standards?
Yeah. just
Nikki Haley.
Yeah, bring Bobby Jindal back into the spotlight, just like dust him off. Okay, Bobby, your time to shine again. But literally finding the most conservative Asian people, and it's just gonna be a repeat of what's happening here.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Whoever those Asian people are, be prepared to bully, be prepared to call them out. But I can see this pattern happening, just trying to essentially whitewash history in both sides, the most terrible atrocities that we've ever experienced.
Oh my God, it's not, I don't even think they're gonna both sides Asian American history. I think they're just gonna say like Asian Americans are a docile people who follow the rules.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, let's move on to our final topic. This is one time when Asian people should not be docile and follow the rules. So we are coming back to the Hollywood strikes. These are strikes that have been happening for, I'd say, about 3 months now by the WGA and the Screen Actors Guild, just protesting major studios like Netflix, Disney, I'm sure Hulu. These writers, they want protections against AI. Actors want protection against AI stealing their livelihood. And the reason we're covering this again is because Netflix has been touting a lot of very high-paying AI jobs. They posted this AI like manager job, product manager job for machine learning, and they are paying $900,000 for this job. And as we can imagine, this job will likely involve exploiting people for their, for their likeness and things like that. Jerry, what's one that you had about this job posting? You gonna apply for it? No.
No, because I fucking hate product managers. Yeah, I thought I'm trying to reduce this to just one small blurb. I think, if you didn't care about, I don't know, I guess Asian representation before, I mean, now it's involving literally like the tech industry, right? Like this product managers are very distinctly like a tech role. And when you sent me the link, the story, and I was like, I clicked on the job description, and when I found out it was a product manager, I just thought that was so funny because I'm like, oh my God, some Asian is gonna try to apply for this. I just know it.
Literally.
And you could never put that shit on LinkedIn because that would make you public enemy number one. You know what I mean? Imagine being the enemy of Asian representation everywhere. Like,
Yeah, literally the job description talks about defining a strategic vision for machine learning and key results and metrics. There's little mention of it's very vague. It's like follow and assess the trends and innovations.
I mean that's wait, that's just kind of product managing
it's just all product
in general.
managing role. Yeah,
that's product managing in general.
Yeah, but I mean, like, let's be real, okay? Like, this job may very well involve using AI to get the likeness of actors, or use AI to generate scripts or TV movie openings or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about that in, I think Bob Iger, I think he's like the CEO of Disney. He mentioned that generative AI, so things like in Photoshop, when you have the program just kind of like generate what the rest of the picture would look like beyond or in like a selected area. He said like generative AI will be extremely difficult to manage, particularly from an IP, which is intellectual property management perspective. And I think that's really interesting because he's straight up saying like, oh yeah, it's going to be hard taking the rights of people away regarding their likeness or like their work, Yeah,
I mean, it's when they say it's hard to manage, I feel like that's also trying to give themselves a slip, being like, oh, whoops. It's like we tried our best, but I'm sorry your face got stolen and is used in our latest, ads and movies. Like, oh, sorry.
Oh, interesting.
It seems like giving yourself a way out. Yeah, I mean, going back to the whole job role itself, I do agree that like, I mean, I can name a lot of Asian product managers, to be
exactly.
honest. It's kind of funny.
Exactly.
but going back to the overall segue, Asian people do not apply to this job. Okay, like this. I mean, I'll give a slight benefit of the doubt, right? There is a chance that this manager role could not involve any of the controversy that's happening on the strike lines. It could just be like a Netflix learning algorithm, right, for recommending content. But
I'm pretty sure it's not that.
Yeah, like when you're at this level role and they're paying $900,000, I'm sure they're going to be asking you about how can we exploit these actors and writers and use AI to, not have to hire a real person to write scripts or hire them for a day for a movie.
Right, but also they already have like a pretty good algorithm in regards to recommend you stuff. So I don't think they need someone for that. This is my conspiracy theory / hope, because again, optimism. Asians, you can apply for this role if you try your hardest to get the job, actually get the role, and then you're just like a real big flop in it. You know what I mean? Like you build all these loopholes for like actors to like actually claim their likeness, for writer you actually somehow give writers protection. What's that saying? Like destroy it from, or like change it from within. Yeah, something like that.
I was never a strong believer in that narrative, but I see the idea.
Yeah, but see, like I feel like the narrative of change it from within is usually like, I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna be the best, and like I'm gonna change it. I'm asking whoever gets this job to be the worst.
Yeah.
Be the fucking worst at your job.
Yeah.
Just take the money and don't do your job.
Yeah, literally.
Watch Netflix all day.
Oh yeah, literally. Yeah, that's you're just the human learning.
Yeah.
No more machine learning, human learning only. Yeah, I was just thinking about this job posting again. It's like it's not. There was that one TechCrunch article you shared about critiques of the salary, and they're saying 900,000 is just standard across the tech industry, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I also did see the larger point. It's like, yeah, I don't care that this person's making 900K because I have no baseline. I think we should be critiquing anyone who's doing, machine learning or AI for Netflix around generative content and exploitation, whether you make 900K or 100K or 200K. Like, if you have that job title, I think you should be bullied right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was like, maybe I should just go on LinkedIn after this and Google like Netflix AI and just see who has those jobs right now, and just like these people should be put on blast regardless.
Yeah, we'll publish a list on the pod,
Oh yeah,
on the meme page.
Like just because you're not getting paid 900K, like doesn't mean you're not also contributing to the same issue.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, but couldn't you argue that about any role? Like if you're providing Netflix capital in any way, you are in some way funding the progress of their machine learning.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean it's different degrees, right? There was oh, did you read that one part about this firm? It's called Real Eyes, like the word real and the word eyes.
Realize, real lies.
Yeah, exactly. They worked with Netflix before, and they posted this job offering, offering $300 for 2 hours of work for any actors expressing different emotions, and also asking them to improvise brief scenes to train an AI database to better express human emotions.
Yikes.
And they tried catering this specifically to striking workers, saying that this gig is for, quote, research purposes, and therefore does not, quote, qualify as struck work. And I'm like, like yeah. This is research on how to exploit you, and this is not a trap, or this is not
like, this is definitely not a trap. Do not worry.
Yeah, but to go back to your point, it depends on degrees of involvement. Like these companies are directly trying to do something. I feel like the people being targeted first should be the people actually having these roles, and then you kind of go down from there.
Yeah. I guess for me, like, I think what I think of when I think about all this AI stuff is like, it just reminds me of when Congress questioned tech CEOs, like they can't even handle like how Facebook works. They are absolutely going to flop at this.
Oh yeah. That's just imagine Dianne Feinstein. She's like one of the oldest members of Congress right now at 89. And she has, I think, some form of dementia, and being put on the platform to talk about generative AI and mapping people's facial likeness. And I'm like, this is going to be a shit show.
I mean, Mitch McConnell just pausing in the middle of his explanation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's, I'm not looking forward to that. Flashback to that one Republican senator who was grilling the TikTok CEO, and they were talking about mapping sunglasses onto the face.
Oh,
and
that
like
one
already
filter.
stumped him. Yeah, the filter already stumped. He's like, why do you need to know where my eyeballs are? Like that. And that was just for the eyes. Like, you're going to super stump if it's generating the entire face.
How does the AI work if it's not hooked up to the internet?
If I close my
Wi-Fi.
eyes. Yeah.
I will say, I don't work in entertainment, but I do work as like a writer in my day job. And someone at work asked me if I hate AI because he's like, oh, is like AI, are you worried AI is going to take your job, ChatGPT? But honestly, like I really love using ChatGPT. Like I feel like it's a good skeleton for me to then sprinkle like my writing stuff on top of. I feel like what the problem is like ChatGPT is just the tool, and I feel like it's the attitude and the humans behind it and who are wielding it that are the problem. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if we could just leave things, we could kind of just be like, all right, this is all it needs to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is all ChatGPT needs to be, a skeleton provider. That's it.
Yeah.
Then like, like it's kind of like, in, I don't know why this is the first thing that came to mind, but like in like the Star Wars movies, like when they're like training to use their lightsabers for the first time, they use like a little blaster droid.
Oh yeah, the new movies. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they get like progressively stronger zaps or whatever, faster, that kind of thing. But we don't need the droid to kill, you know?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. AI being used as training wheels versus replacing the entire bike and the rider.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Long story short, if you see this job posting, don't apply for it. Like, I feel like inevitably there will be one person who applies for it, and that person will get bullied a lot. And we are just hoping it's not an Asian person, because I feel like even the most shallow Asian person definitely cares about representation in some aspect, and this job will literally be taking jobs away from Asian actors.
Yeah, I mean, that LinkedIn post will go viral for sure.
For sure, for the wrong reasons. But That's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you like us, please give us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can also follow us on social media at Politically Asian Podcast. And if you have some money to donate to help us with our like maintenance costs, essentially, you can donate at buymeacoffee.com/politicalasian, and we'll give you a fortune cookie shout out as well. But yeah, that's it for this episode. We will see you again 2 weeks from now until our lives get back to normal. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.